Hello. That took me a bit by surprise when the countdown came. 3, 2, 1. Woo. Hi, guys. Hi. Let's just check the microphone is working. Hi, Joanne here from Speaking Made Simple. And this is Q&A Thursday, but I like to cover a particular topic. And today it's going to be about defining social anxiety disorder. Not because I'm an expert in this, but because it's new to me and I'm still figuring out all the different definitions. So hi to anyone who joins me a bit later. I've got somebody here already. Hope you're having a good Thursday. Whether I'll start going, I'll give people a few more seconds, just in case anybody joins me later. If you're wondering, I seem to be a bit obsessed with this whole speaking thing. I come from a background where I struggled to speak up and I used to feel very shy. I would have called it shy, and I just accepted that. And as I say, different struggles along the way. But as an adult, I've realised that there's lots of different ways that you can label this feeling that I had, this sense of anxiety when speaking. And as I say, I've just become completely fascinated by it. So there you go, giving it a few more seconds. Really wanted to cover some of the definitions, but that means that I've got to read it out to you. So let me just start with social anxiety disorder. If you Google social anxiety disorder, the definition that I've got popping up here is: social anxiety disorder is an overwhelming fear of social situations like meeting or speaking to people. Well, for me, to use the word overwhelming fear makes it sound huge. And so this fear is so big that you can't even, almost like you can't get out of the house. Overwhelming fear of social situations like meeting or speaking to people. This is the next bit. Symptoms of social anxiety include worrying about speaking to people, dreading social events, avoiding eye contact, and low self-esteem. Talking therapies are the main treatment for social anxiety. Self-help courses and antidepressants can help some people. So, first of all, if there's anybody here who feels that relates to them and they're finding it really tough, please try and get help from some professional as a therapist. I'm not here as a therapist. I'm here as somebody trying to figure it all out. You know, I don't particularly resonate with the label social anxiety disorder. Yet, do I worry about speaking to people? Yes. Dreading social events? Yes. Avoiding eye contact sometimes. Low self-esteem? It depends what it's about. It's all very specific and different for me. So one of the things I wanted to point out to people is that there are online tests for social anxiety disorder. So for example, I've gone to socialanxietyinstitute.org, socialanxietyinstitute.org, but there are others online if you're curious. So Pranch has come along. Hello, yes, long time no see. How are you? Pranch, you might be interested in this because I'm looking at the different labels like today about social anxiety disorder. And I don't know whether you've ever looked it up, but there's a test online that you can do. Let me just say, there's 6 pages, so I don't think I'm going to go through all of them. But it says the test for social anxiety disorder, and you can mark it as in 0, none, you never worry about it, to high, to 3. And the first question is giving a brief talk in front of 6 other people. And I don't know, as soon as I saw that question, I was like, you're kidding, right? If I had to give a brief talk in front of 3 other people, my anxiety would be up. let alone 6 other people. 6 other people to me is a presentation. So, do you feel some anxiety giving a brief talk in front of 6 other people? So, I would say that would pop me in the high in terms of feeling some anxiety, at least at the thought of it. For me, it all depends on what I'm talking about and how I'm feeling on the day and who those 6 people are. But, I can imagine that 6 people, say, on a panel of experts, and I had to speak to them. For sure, I would be feeling some anxiety. And part of me wonders, I say, isn't that normal? Isn't that normal that you feel some anxiety? So, anyway, Pranch has just asked, what is the website name? Could I repeat it? Let me just type it in for you. This is about the test, Pranch. You can find loads of different websites with the. Sorry, I'm just typing at the same time. You can find loads of different websites with definitions. Socialanxietyinstitute.org. The reason I've gone to this particular test is because this is the organisation that is deemed to serve people who have this label, this social anxiety disorder. So I thought, well, their questions be very good. Now, I have done other tests for socialanxiety.org, for social anxiety. But anyway, I'm going to read this out. It's question number 2, saying hello to a stranger. Well, again, for me, it all depends on the situation. Generally, I'm happy if I know the rules about this social situation. So, for example, I know that if somebody is working somewhere, then I'm allowed to approach them. The rules say I'm allowed to approach them, say hello, and ask for help. So, if I was going into a library, I'm quite comfortable going up to the staff that work there and asking them for help. So that would be fairly low. If I was walking down the street and I wanted some help from somebody, then there would be a little bit of anxiety. But I know, for example, if I want to ask somebody what the time is, or if I want to ask somebody directions, I know that the social rules of that mean that it's okay to do that. So I feel maybe a little bit of anxiety in terms of, will they be kind to me or not? Will they help me or not? But if I was, let's think of a different situation. I did this personal development course once, and they wanted us to go up to strangers and ask for something, bigger, like a donation to a charity or something. And my anxiety levels went whoop, straight up. So I didn't really want to be saying hello to a stranger, even just with the thought that I was going to be moving on to saying that next. Saying hello to a stranger. I struggled when I was overseas with the hello to a stranger because I knew that my language abilities in a second language were variable. So obviously in my Spanish, I have intermediate. But if I was living in Kazakhstan for a while, they could be speaking Kazakh or they could be speaking Russian, and maybe they have English. So, as I say, for me, all the time, people accuse me of overthinking. But yes, saying hello to a stranger sometimes be zero. Like I don't feel much anxiety in that particular situation. And sometimes it would be high. It just depends on who that person is that I perceive them to be and what I really want to say to them. So anyway, I've just got sidetracked then. Pranch was asking me, if you don't mind, why are you not doing live cast on Hello app? I'm not allowed to be on the Hello app anymore. They've changed their rules, so I'm no longer allowed to be on it. So, hence, moving over to YouTube and starting afresh. And at least here, I'll have a copy of the videos and different things like that. because on the Hello app I can't download the videos. So anyway, you feel free to ask questions though. I'm really interested, Punch, in the idea that we're labeling all these different feelings, and the goal is to serve people that might be having problems, but yet the people who are having problems might not necessarily label themselves the same way. And that's why I really wanted to talk about, the disorder that is social anxiety, versus what we might call shyness or introversion. Anyway, this next question I thought was pretty interesting. Having your friends and family sing happy birthday to you. It's lovely when people sing happy birthday to me, but it does make me feel self-conscious and some anxiety comes up. I definitely feel all those eyes and all that attention on me. Having a general conversation with someone who cares about you. What I like about this question is it's getting more specific. So somebody who cares about you, and it's a general conversation. 0 to 1. That depends on the person and depends on the conversation, but sometimes there is a sense of anxiety about that, particularly in that I might say the wrong thing or accidentally do something wrong. And then the question number 5 is dancing in a dimly lit nightclub. I love dancing, so I don't always feel self-conscious. Well, yeah, I don't always feel bad, self-conscious, but bad about it. But I do feel self-conscious, and there is some anxiety about that. I am, though, happy to get on the dance floor first. Obviously, it depends who else is there and different things like that, because I don't think I'd get on the dance floor first now, being older and different things. But certainly when I was younger, I did. So anyway, let me just have a double check then. Before I go on to the next definitions. So Pranch is saying, I still remember your birthday is in November. Yes, my birthday is the 29th of November. I'm a Sagittarius. So Pranch, I'm not sure how you felt about any of those questions, but I particularly wanted to talk about next this social anxiety disorder, which just the name of it for me feels really strong, really like almost like it's an illness, and I don't know. Yeah, really strong. But if I look at the word shy, which is what I've grown up with, and people said, oh, she's just shy, or sometimes they would say that she was, like me, that I was painfully shy. Here it says, nervous or timid in the company of other people. Yeah. So nervous or timid in the company of other people. And I would have said it was more than that. So the social anxiety disorder, just the label of it seems too strong for me. And yet, if I'm looking at the definition of what shy is, nervous or timid doesn't really cover it, because I have got to the point in the past about anxiety that my brain freezes and that I can't speak. So that's not really nervous or timid. But as I say, shy is the word that I've grown up with. Let me just read introvert as well, because that's another one. Introvert says shy or reticent person. Shy or reticent person. But more lately, I'd say last 5-10 years, the word introvert has been used for somebody who gets their energy back by being alone, where an extrovert gets their energy back by being in groups of people. So I think the word itself has had a different interpretation more recently. Anyway, this is the one. Now, Pranch, have you heard of this? And I'll let me put the website in. Have you heard of HSP? And it stands for highly sensitive person. HSP. Let me just write it in there. HSP. hsperson.com. Okay. It's quite useful to be able to type in the different things here. This is the highly sensitive person. Now, I found this book 30 years ago, something like that. 20, 30 years ago. And what she's saying, this Elaine Aron, what she's putting out there is some part of the population are more sensitive to the rest of the population. And I think she's thinking like the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the population are more sensitive and then the 80% are less sensitive. And it's not about what's better or what's worse, but what works well for a society or a group of people. That it works well if you have a smaller percentage of people who are more sensitive to environments and different situations than the rest of the population. So when I found this book, I was in the mindset that I was wrong, something wrong with me, I don't fit in, I get upset by situations, I get anxious in certain situations, but it's just me and I'm the problem. So when I found this book, I loved it. And so I'm just going to read some things from it in a second. I loved it, but particularly what I liked about it was that I related to a lot of the questions and the thoughts that she had. And what she did was say, there's a positive and a negative element of being sensitive, just as there is a positive and negative about being less sensitive. So let me read what this is one of the tests. And also she says this is particularly good if you're a parent helping for a child. It says here, are you highly sensitive? I am easily overwhelmed by strong sensory input. So yeah, I would say yes for that for me. And strong sensory input for me can just be, if I was going to a party, I can tend to feel, I'm definitely on alert. There's that sense of overwhelm. And as this relates to introversion, I will go home and be exhausted afterwards. So the new definition of introvert, yes, I would say yes to that. And this HSP, yes. I seem to be aware of subtleties in my environment. Yes. And funnily enough, I always thought that everybody else was also aware of these things, but clearly not. I tend to be very sensitive to pain. I don't know how you would judge that. I think I've got quite a high pain tolerance, but who knows? I find myself needing to withdraw during busy days into bed or into a darkened room or any place where I can have some privacy and relief from stimulation. So yeah, that's absolutely me. My husband likes to put television on in every single room, and I like turn the telly off. So I like silence, and sometimes I just need to be silent and have my own thoughts just to come back to myself and to be thinking again. It says I'm particularly sensitive to the effects of caffeine. Well, I don't drink coffee, so that doesn't apply, but I am sensitive to the effects of alcohol, and I don't drink. I'm easily overwhelmed by things like bright lights, strong smells, coarse fabrics, or sirens close by. Yeah. For me, it's particularly about noise, in that if I'm trying to have a conversation and there's some noise going on over here, I find it very hard to stick to my own thoughts. Deeply moved by the arts or music. Again, how do you compare that? Yes, I'd say I am. Let's see, Prad's just saying. Even though I'm also an introvert, but I want to overcome it, but I can't freely express myself in public. Yeah. I think what I just wanted to talk about today, Pranch, is that clearly you're connecting to the word introvert. And each of us will have a connection to one of these different words. Some of us will say, I'm shy. Some of us introvert, HSP, or social anxiety disorder. But it doesn't really mean that you are the standard definition of that. I think all these different feelings are, some of us may call ourselves shy, but actually could tick all the boxes of everything, for example. And the relevance of this is what happens next? What do you do with it? Do you see a therapist, or do you do some sort of online course, or do you give up on yourself? Do you think, it's just the way I am, and so give up on myself? I say a lot of the people I work with, even though I was working with people who have English as a second language, I was obviously working with a particular type of person who had some sense of anxiety when they're speaking, because if they were confident with speaking, then they didn't want to help with the speaking. But yeah. So yeah, it's about that freely expressing yourself in public. This one says, I get rattled when I have a lot to do in a short amount of time. And the word rattled means kind of upset, but it's almost like a upset, confused feelings. Like say, oh, I'm getting all rattled when there's a lot to do in a short amount of time. So this is an interesting one. When people, as in other people, are uncomfortable in a physical environment, I tend to know what needs to be done to make it more comfortable, like changing the lighting or the seating. And I think this is fascinating because for me, it's really obvious when I go in a room who's feeling anxious or nervous or happy or sad. And straight away, I have a sense of, oh, I just need to change that, or say hello to them, or maybe take a step back from them if they're feeling that I'm in their personal space or something like that. So I thought that was really interesting. Anyway, those are all the definitions. And like I say, if you're out there and you relate to one or the other and you're finding it really tough, then please get professional help. I'm not the professional help for being a therapist or labeling you with any of those labels. What I do is helping with the speaking side of things, as in what happens next. So if you are feeling anxious and different things like that, my job is really to show up and say, yes, you can start off in that position, but you can feel better and better and better about your speaking. Your confidence can go up, and obviously I believe that there's lots of different ways that you can increase your confidence. So Pranch, look, you've been following me for a little while on Hello. I'm curious, when you say you can't freely express yourself in public, do you feel that it's something that you could learn how to do? Or do you feel like it's just part of who you are in your character or your personality? Because this is really the crux of it, is that I want people to think of speaking the way they think about writing, in that if they would like to upskill and be a little bit better at it, then there's books out there and help out there, and it can go in lots of different directions. If you wanted to be a better writer, you might look at language and spelling and vocabulary, but what you probably do is look at the different situations and say, oh, I want to write an essay for university. So I'll learn a little bit about writing essays, or I'll learn about writing reports, or I'll learn about writing fiction. And it seems to be really, in society, really well known that that doesn't reflect on your character at all. It just means that you're going to upskill and be a better writer. Yet for some reason, when we talk about speaking, it's almost like there's something wrong with you because you would like to be better than you currently are. So anyway, let's have a look at the comments back. So yeah, Pranch was saying, actually, sometimes I don't get the words at the appropriate time when I'm framing sentences. So at that time, I feel nervous. Yeah. But you didn't answer my question. My question was, do you see this as something for you to learn and get better at? Or do you feel that it's because you're an introvert and that this will always be difficult? I say, from my experience, there were lots of things that I thought would be impossible, which clearly have proved possible because I'm here on video now. I mean, there was a time where I wouldn't walk into a shop or onto a bus first because I felt like everybody was staring at me. If I was going with a friend, I would let them go on the bus first or go in the shop first. So clearly, in my experience, it's been possible to learn different things. And the reason that I teach this is that it shouldn't be as hard to do as I found it. Because along the way, I was thinking that I was the problem a lot of the time. I was thinking that, first of all, I thought that I was stupid. It's like, if I can't think of the words and everybody else can, then I must be stupid. And I ended up doing like IQ tests and things like that, just to prove to myself that I was intelligent enough to have a conversation. And then what else was it next? People have told me I overthink things too much and I'm too sensitive. And all of it is kind of some negative thing about there's something wrong with you, there's something wrong with you. So that's why some of these books and some of these things I read were so useful, to think nothing wrong with you. Maybe you're more sensitive than, say, the majority of the population, but there are positives and negatives about that. Now, what are we going to do with that? Rather than, that's just the way you are, let's just give up on it. Because for me, I wanted more in life, and to have more in life and to have more of a career meant that I needed to be speaking to people. I needed their cooperation in this. So Pranch hasn't answered my question, but he was just saying about feeling nervous, and he knows because he's heard me speak before, is that, when we're saying about sensitivity and nerves, strictly speaking, in the literature about it, they talk about it as the fear response, in that we sense that there could possibly be danger, and then we move through different fear responses. So the first stage would be to fawn. And fawning is when you agree with somebody that you don't actually agree with, or maybe you're laughing too much at their jokes and things like that. And then you move into the fight or flight, which would be, green is fawn. No, green is normal. Yellow is getting onto the fawn. Then moving up to the yellow, when it's almost, this is the traffic lights, moving up to yellow, where you're all the red, is the fight or flight. So fight would be if somebody was speaking to you and you find yourself snapping back a response. You say something, but it comes out a little bit sharp, and you never intended it to, but that's that sense of, I need to defend myself. And then flight would be just maybe speaking so fast and trying to get out of there, And then we move on to the red, which is something that I think a lot of people who work with me have experienced, which is the freeze. And that's where, unfortunately, you're not able to speak at all because your mind is frozen. But what I'm trying to tell people is that part of things is completely normal. What we do with it later, in terms of maybe desensitizing you a little bit, or helping you understand that that's completely natural. Because as soon as you take the judgment away, as soon as you stop saying, I am bad, or I am stupid, or I am wrong, because those things happen, you give yourself a chance to recover and to feel good about yourself. So all the fear response things are completely normal. And it's what happens next. I would say in those kind of situations where you're freezing, I've had the situation where I couldn't remember my name. I went for an interview in Madrid, and I knew my Spanish was bad, so I was feeling on edge about that. But then they asked me about the flight there, and they asked me my name, and I just couldn't remember my own name, and I couldn't remember how to say hello in Spanish, which is hola. And again, once again, I felt stupid and I blamed myself. But I'm here for other people to say, stop doing that. So Pranch was saying, yes, it is same. Happened with me. I usually prove my intelligence to my own selves. Yeah, I did the IQ test, like I say, because I just couldn't figure out why I was so unhappy. Because other people were telling me that this is what you're capable of. This is the job you should be doing. This is your place in society. And I was unhappy with that. And I couldn't understand that. I thought, well, if this is my potential and this is all I'm capable of, why aren't I happy with that? Why do I feel like I want more? And as I say, then when I was exploring that, I realized that one of the problems wasn't my intelligence, wasn't my IQ. It was about how I was communicating that to other people. As I say, when I was younger, it was just you were thought of as being shy, even if you were thought of as being painfully shy. And it was accepted that you didn't speak up in class. Nobody really thought much of it. And I think in the workplace, it doesn't really matter if you don't speak up either, except you won't get the promotion and you won't be trusted and get the different responsibilities that you are probably capable of doing. So you say you had to take time, perhaps you were saying you had to take time to prove to yourself about your intelligence. It's one of the things I do recommend people do if they're struggling with self-esteem. There's loads of IQ tests and things like that. I mean, IQ is limited in terms of what it's measuring. But if it's a way to boost your confidence, go for it. Go do that. And then and the other thing I ask people to do, if they've got the English as a second language particularly, but also if you have English as a first language, is to do the testyourvocab.com ones. I don't know if Pranch knows this, but just in case somebody comes to this later, I'm going to type that up. Test your vocab. Because there was a point where I was wondering if I was speaking in a too simplistic way. And because I was like, I can't understand why people meeting me have so low expectations of me after working with me or speaking with me. And so, yes, first of all, I wondered maybe I was just stupid. And then I proved to myself I wasn't. And then I thought, well, maybe it is about speaking, and maybe it's because I'm too simplistic in the way I speak. And then I got some answers about that in terms of how much vocabulary I know. I also had enough time to think about. I also had enough time to think about. Oh, crikey, it's gone. I saw the numbers suddenly change in terms of who was watching me, and that completely distracted me. So what was I talking about? I was talking about speaking. I was talking about test your vocab. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I also had enough time to stop and think and say to myself, well, I like the way I speak. And if it is simplistic, then I like being simplistic. And I like being clear. I like the idea that somebody who speaks to me knows what I'm talking about rather than using really long words or something like that. It matters to me what that other person is feeling and understanding. So there you go. Anyway, I've gone over the half hour today because I've had some interaction. The whole point of today was to pop up and show all these different labels and talk about the definitions of all these different labels. And the goal is to make you realize that people are calling it different things. If you're curious and you're trying to figure yourself out, then I would go to the websites, look at the different tests, and you're probably going to find some overlap between all these definitions, and all of them are going to make suggestions on how to feel even better. And that's the goal, isn't it? You want to feel better. You want to be going out into the world, doing what you're born to do and capable of doing, with less of the negative, horrible feelings that could come up. Oop, the wires are going funny here. So anyway, I'm really proud of myself once again for turning up and doing the live video. There's times through it, as you can probably tell, where I've hesitated. And some of you watching may think, why doesn't she go back and edit that out? Because this video will stay. And the goal for me, it's about, I need you to know that this is how people speak. So if you're comparing yourself to some idea of perfection, I need you to know that this is how people think. This is how people speak. Sometimes they lose track of their thoughts. Sometimes they forget completely what they're talking about. And sometimes they fall over their words or forget a particular word. I really need you to see that this is normal. And my goal is to be an even better speaker. I'm trying to upskill by being here and doing this. And hopefully at some point in the future, you'll look back at these and say, that was her journey. That's what happens when you're trying to improve yourself as a speaker. So in the meantime, take care of yourself, guys. Please, if you need professional help, please reach out and tell people how you're feeling. I think some of these websites and some of these questionnaires can be really useful for giving you the language that you need and helping you put into words some of the feelings that you'll have about speaking. So please get any help that you need and reach out to me if you feel like it, if you're curious about knowing more about speaking. My website is speakingmadesimple.co.uk, but you can also put a comment below. So take care of yourself, guys. Bye.